We begin. Hello, everybody. Welcome again to our second virtual cooking class. And now it looks like we're going to have a regular kind of Zoom meeting. So I hope you can join us every Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Before I introduce our chef tonight, Tova Cohen, I want to go over some basic information. If you have any questions, you can either try to raise your hand, which is the raise hand. People keep coming. Icon. Thank you, Tova. The raise hand icon is in the participants place. So you can try doing that, or you can just in the chat put down a question, and then we'll either try to answer it as we go along or at the very end of the presentation. And someone will be monitoring that. That'll be Chad. You should all be on speaker view and should all be just seeing me and not a whole bunch of little people who don't really matter that much. Sort of. The class, let's see. Okay, there's a class scheduled already for next week, and it's going to be easy bagels and the best part chocolate cake. And as you were told, you can get that, you can download the ingredients on the chat, so you can be ready for that. Okay. And also, I do want to thank Chad Cohen for directing this whole procedure and all his Zoom master abilities. So we thank you, Chad. So let's get on to the introduction of our chef. I have worked with Tova Cohen for many years. She is an innovative, accomplished gourmet cook who is very practical in her approach. And one thing that probably distinguishes her from many others is that she learned how to cook and bake from her mom. And her old world knowledge and care is woven into every recipe that she produces. So it's almost like getting two chefs for the price of one. So without further ado, I give you my friend, Tova.
Good evening, everybody. Murray, thank you for that lovely introduction. I actually learned to cook from my mom, not at a very young age, but when I was married and had kids and started writing down recipes. And I'm very grateful for that, as are my kids, my family. But anyways, that's another story. So I'm a little nervous tonight. I don't love talking in front of groups, but I do love to cook. And I'm honored that you are joining me tonight in my kitchen. So we've been, all of us, I think, spending a lot of time cooking during this, what would I say? During this crazy time is all I can say. So what I have tonight are some recipes that I think are easy, delicious, and really make for a nice casual dinner, maybe a little change of pace for some of you, for me as well. So hopefully you have the recipes and you can follow along, you can cook along, whatever works for you. And I will answer questions at the end of each recipe, okay? So tonight we're gonna start with the quick and easy, flourless Parve chocolate chip cookies. It almost takes longer to say that than it does to make the cookies. So instead of flour in this recipe, we're using ground almonds, almond meal, natural almond flour. It's different names for the exact same thing. You can get it at Trader Joe's. You can get it at Mark's. I've seen it at Costco, but that's a pretty big bag. And I actually use it in many different recipes, but I store it in the refrigerator and it keeps that way pretty well. It doesn't go rancid very quickly. So even if you don't go through it very fast, as long as you're storing it properly, it's a wonderful item to have on hand. So I'm making a half a recipe because you'll see why. So we're going to start by putting our almonds, ground almonds, the almond meal, the almond flour, whatever you're calling it. We're going to add brown sugar. Eggs, I'm going to just lightly beat. And Parve chocolate chips. Of course, you can make this dairy if you're serving a dairy meal and you want a dairy dessert. These are Parve chocolate chips, regular size ones. These are mini chocolate chips. Actually bought these when I went to the store this week and was not intending to get mini, but I was wearing my mask and my glasses got a little fogged up, and it wasn't until I got home that I saw I had mini chocolate chips. They work fine. So I actually have a combination of them, and I'm adding it to my other 3 ingredients. And what we're going to do is just stir this. And I think I'm going to use my rubber spatula for now, see how that works. Until you get a moist, thick mixture. You want it to be uniform. So it takes a little bit of stirring. I'm going to go to the spoon now because it's got a rougher surface and it's got a harder surface, and then I think it'll stir up better. Now, as most of you have probably thought, this is a wonderful recipe for Passover, but I made it one year for Passover and everybody liked it so much that my daughters made it all year long. Okay, so we're almost there. I use large eggs. Most recipes that are baking recipes use a large egg as opposed to, you know, the other sizes. But okay, so you can see it's pretty thick, but it's moist. Okay, so going to rinse our hands. And you want your hand to be a little wet. Some of you like to use an ice cream scooper to do your cookies, and that would work fine. I just do it by wetting my hands and rolling it into a ball, and I kind of flatten them a little bit. This makes 18 cookies, and we'll have 9 per cookie sheet. Hopefully 9. I'm making them a little bigger tonight, so we'll see how that works out. Even though I've got 2 cookie sheets, I'm lucky enough to have 2 ovens. So I do make the cookies in separate ovens. If you have experience, I see I'm not going to have exactly 9, but you can do 2 things when it doesn't quite come up to the number you want. You can take them apart and kind of refigure it, or you can just have 1 less, which is what we're going to do right now. Okay, so as I was saying, if you put it if you put 2 cookie sheets in separate shelves in an oven, they're not going to cook evenly. You can rotate it through the cooking process if you want, but I think it's just easier to make the cookies 1 sheet at a time. And I'm sure all of you have had experience with making cookies. It's the same process. Okay, so we're gonna put this into the preheated oven, 375 degrees. And through the magic of Zoom, here's our cookies. Okay, so they basically flatten out and they're chewy. I kind of bake them for about 15 minutes. If you want them a little chewier, maybe do it 14 minutes. You do want them cooked, but as far as the texture, that's up to you. So now we've got our dessert. Okay. We're going to just put it aside for now, and we're going to move on and make our coleslaw. So coleslaw was around in its earliest form in ancient Rome, where they served cabbage with vinegar, eggs, and spices. Coleslaw, as we know it, really didn't come on the scene till the 18th century when the French invented mayonnaise. The term coleslaw is an anglicized version of the Dutch term koolslaw. Kool, meaning cabbage, and sla, a Dutch abbreviation for salad. The Dutch who founded New York, it was originally called New Amsterdam, grew cabbage all around the Hudson River. This recipe is made with mayonnaise, and it's what I think of when I think of deli coleslaw. I did give a recipe for an alternative dressing, which is made with vinegar and with oil, and there's no mayonnaise in it. I like to use Hellmann's light mayonnaise. Hellmann's is kind of a standard brand I think a lot of people use. If you want to make this recipe vegan, you can use Vegenaise, and just the same amount of it, and it works beautifully. So that's a great product to have on hand, and you can just make your coleslaw vegan. So in my bowl, I've got salt and sugar. And to that, I'm going to add my Hellmann's mayonnaise light. And I'm going to add distilled vinegar. It's not one of the sexy vinegars, I know, but I've been making it this way for years. And actually, despite its sort of institutional sounding name, it works beautifully in this recipe. And the level of acidity, it's 5% acidity, which is lower than a lot of other vinegars. And it just ends up making the dish sweet and tart, and I think delicious. So you add those 4 ingredients into your bowl, and then you're just going to whisk it. At first, it sort of looks curdled. Don't let that scare you. That's just the acid combining with the mayonnaise. And keep on whisking it until there's no more granules, and it's very smooth and very creamy. And that's what it's going to look like. It makes it a lot easier to do it in the bowl that you're going to put your coleslaw into. I am using the Fresh Express 3-color coleslaw. I got this at Heinen's. You can get this most places. It may be a different brand. At Mark's they have it, and it only has the cabbage with the carrots. It doesn't have the tricolors. Whatever form you want to use is fine, but this size bag, basically. You can also do the old-fashioned thing and shred your own cabbage. About a half a head, I would say, and a small carrot, and just shred it, and that will be a similar amount. So we're going to put it in here, and at first, it looks like, you know, there's a fair amount in there, but, and we're going to stir it to sort of incorporate everything as much as you can. Bring the dressing up, and just keep stirring it until it's pretty much coated. So once the cabbage is in the dressing and you put it in the refrigerator, it's going to settle, and it's not going to be, it's kind of like when you cook with onions or spinach or other things, it's going to incorporate and it's going to shrink. It's a good idea to let it chill for a little bit to kind of let all the flavors melt. And I wouldn't do it too far in advance. Coleslaw left over is good, tasty, but it does tend to get a little bit watery compared to when you first make it. It's best eaten that first day you make it. And I would say if you make it, you know, maybe a couple hours ahead, that's fine. Don't make it too far ahead. Okay, so as you can see, it's kind of settling down a little bit, and we're getting a nice coating on the slaw, on the cool slaw. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. We're gonna put it in the refrigerator for a little bit. All right, the door closed. I wasn't sure. Got a lot of stuff in there right now. Okay, now we're going to move on to the barbecue chicken pita. This is a recipe I've really been making for over 20 years. I don't know if any of you remember Kathy Fliebler. She was actually a nurse by training, and always had a love of cooking. And she started teaching cooking classes in her home in Beechwood and had a catering business. And, you know, I would go to her house. This is when our daughters were very young, and take cooking classes in the evenings periodically. And my husband Chad would have to stay home with the girls. So it was like a night out for me. But I took cooking classes for her for many years. She ended up being the culinary director of a cooking school that university hospitals had for a very short time, called Synergy. And I actually worked for Kathy, just doing shopping, prepping, assisting for a period of time. And the idea of the cooking school was coming up with heart healthy and recipes that were, I guess, lower calorically and were basically better for you than other recipes. So this recipe came out of that class and sort of became a classic in our household. It's made with 2 cooked chicken breasts. If, again, you would like to make this dish vegan, you can make it with tofu. And I'm sure those of you that use tofu know that you need to get the moisture out of the tofu. And that's the real secret to using it in this dish. So to do that, you would take the the block of tofu and wrap it in a towel or paper towels and weigh it down with, you can use cans, you can put a cutting board above it with books and change the paper towels or the towel a couple of times and you'll see a lot of the moisture coming out of it. And that's what you want. Then you would cut the tofu into cubes and just saute it in a frying pan, you know, with a little bit of spray and turn it until the cubes are golden and maybe even a little crisp. My daughter Jessica does this all the time. She's an expert on the tofu preparation. So if you're going to use chicken breast, which is what I've done tonight, you can saute them, you can grill them, you can poach them, you can prepare them any way that is pleasing to you. I like to just saute the chicken in a frying pan, and that's what I've done. Okay, so we're gonna start preparing this, and I hope you're all paying attention because this is the really tough part of the recipe. Okay, so we're gonna take our frozen corn, which mine's thawed. If you don't think ahead of time to thaw the corn, don't worry about it. It will thaw when you heat up your sauce. So you're going to put your corn into a small saute pan. Well, it's actually like a 2-quart pot. And then you're going to add your thick and chunky salsa. And you can use any brand you want to use, you know, that you prefer, Ortega, whatever brand you like, just use that salsa. So that goes in the pot. Okay, and then you're going to add your barbecue sauce. And just like with the salsa, you can use whatever barbecue sauce you like. But I have always used Open Pit. It's the only time I use Open Pit. Open Pit Thick and Tangy. And this is also at Mark's, and it's very inexpensive at Mark's on top of everything, but it just adds a really nice smokiness and spiciness, but not really very spicy, but just a little bit of spice and a little bit of sweetness to the recipe. Okay, so now we've got our corn, our salsa, our barbecue sauce in here, and this was the hard part of the recipe. We're going to take this and we're going to heat it up. So I would say, you know, heat it up on medium low. Just keep an eye on it. You want to get it to the point where it's bubbly. Well, except for one thing. I forgot to add the chicken. Okay, so now we're going to, this is the chicken breast that I haven't sliced up. This is the rest of my cubed chicken breast. So just cut it into sort of bite-sized cubes. Okay, and now you're going to add the chicken. No, actually, you know what? I'm screwing it up again. All right. We are going to heat up. I'm saying it. Okay. We're adding our chicken. And now we're heating it all up. See, this is the problem when you go over recipes too many times. You start getting yourself confused. So we're warming that up over medium. Okay. While all that is warming, we're going to slice our tomato in anticipation of our delicious sandwiches. I like them not too thin, not too thick. This is really terrific in the summer when you've got fresh tomatoes, and you can use fresh corn in this if you want to just take it right off the cob. That's wonderful too.
There's a couple questions in the chat. One was there seasoning added to the coleslaw mixture?
Nope. The seasonings were in there, just sugar and salt. So that was already in the bowl. And to that, I added the vinegar and the mayonnaise. So that's all the seasoning. There's no pepper, just the sugar, salt, mayo, and vinegar.
Another question is, was that chicken frozen or cooked?
That was cooked chicken. It was frozen chicken breast I had in my freezer that I took out and put in the refrigerator last night. It's best to thaw chicken in your refrigerator overnight rather than putting it on the counter and letting it thaw at room temperature. So I let it thaw overnight in the refrigerator, and then I sauteed it in a pan. You can make your chicken whenever you want to, really. You can even make it the day before to put in this. But yes, it has to be cooked chicken. Okay.
Other question is, should you cover the pot when heating it, or does it not matter?
It does not matter. Okay, I'm gonna go give it a stir. Oh, it's warming up nicely. So I'm gonna turn my heat down to low because I don't want it to overcook. All right, I'm using pita. And what I do, I use the scissors and just cut it in half. You can cut it in half with a knife. This is the way I do it. It's the easiest way. If you don't want pita or you don't want to eat carbs, you can do what my daughter does. You can serve the chicken on a bed of lettuce and or the tofu and just sort of have like a deconstructed pita sandwich.
There's a question about the chicken. How did you saute the chicken? And did you add anything when you sauteed it?
Okay, so I just sauteed it in a nonstick pan, and I buy kosher chicken, which already has salt in it. I did not season it at all. And I never do. The flavor that the sauce has is wonderful, and I think there's plenty of salt in the chicken already, so I don't really feel like it needs any additional seasoning. But again, like anything else with cooking, it's to your taste, and if there's some sort of seasoning that you really like, go ahead and add it. It doesn't need it. Let me just say that.
Is there a particular oil that you use to saute the chicken, or? That's my question, because I wouldn't know how to saute a chicken. Okay.
Murray likes Pam. I like, which is, the spray. I like using Mazzola. So that's what I use. I just spray the pan just a little bit, and that's it. I don't use a lot of oil. It doesn't need it. You just want to cook it until the chicken is cooked through. All right. So the chicken is warmed up, and hopefully you can see this, but it's saucy, but it's not dripping in sauce. You're going to be putting it into a pita bread, and sometimes it falls apart from the, all the sauce, and because it's wet. So this is just perfect. It's not oversauced, and there's the corn in there and the vegetable from the salsa. I'm going to get my coleslaw out of the refrigerator. And I'm going to give her another stir. As the coleslaw kind of condenses, it gets to be easier to stir. And you can see it's pretty creamy. And this is what I think of when I think of deli coleslaw, and I've always liked it. And there's so many recipes and varieties out there if you want to just make something different. And you don't always have to use cabbage. There's tons of options, but this is kind of standard fare and it's pretty tasty. Okay, so now we're going to build our sandwich. So we're going to open the pita pocket, the half, and I'm going to put a couple of tomato slices in there. And then I'm going to put the chicken in there. So you've got a nice sandwich. So we'll put that on our plate. Now we're going to put a little bit of coleslaw on the plate.
There's a question, what if you use tofu rather than chicken? Anything different there?
Yes, as I said before, you would make sure you get all the liquid out of the tofu, cut it into cubes, saute it similar with spray in a nonstick pan and turn it until it's golden. And then you would add it to the sauce that you've made with the corn and the barbecue sauce and the salsa and heat it up. It's exactly like it is with the chicken. All right, so I don't know if you can you see this okay, Chad? So here it is. So this is the barbecue chicken pita with the coleslaw, and Murray's potato chips that he made last week goes fabulous with this as well. I hope you guys have been having fun making those. Want to give a shout out to our friends in South Bend, Indiana, who almost took the tip of his finger off with the mandolin, but the chips are delicious and he enjoyed it. So this makes about 4 pita halves, which is 2 pitas. Can feed 4 people. If you want to have 2 sandwiches, it feeds 2 people, okay? Do the math. And when I used to make it, when, you know, I had kids living here, I'd probably make it with 4 to 6 chicken breasts. It's delicious leftover. And it's just very versatile, very easy. All right.
I'm sorry. I have a question about the cookies.
Yep.
Is dark brown sugar better than light brown sugar?
Well, the difference between dark brown sugar and light brown sugar is how much molasses is in the sugar. I used to buy both dark brown sugar and light brown sugar, but I never used it enough to use them up, and they would turn into this big hard brick, which you can soften in the microwave, but I just never went through it enough. And I came to my own personal realization that I like dark brown sugar. So that's all I buy, and that's all I use, even if the recipe calls for light brown sugar. I don't find a huge difference unless you don't care for the taste of molasses, which I don't know that you'd notice the difference if you had a cookie made with light brown versus dark brown. So my preference is just to always use dark brown sugar. Okay, so here you have it. An easy, casual dinner I hope you'll make and enjoy. You know, if it was nicer outside, this would be a perfect picnic and a perfect, dinner on the deck while you're socially distancing from the rest of the world. I do want to say that for those of you that maybe don't realize, the directory from 2019 has a little bit of a cookbook at the back of it from B'nai Assuran's Kitchen, Recipes Revealed. These are all recipes that are from the B'nai Assuran Kitchen, things we've made for lunches, sometimes for kiddishes, and recipes, frankly, people have asked us for. So if you have not gone past Bruce and Seema Zucker in the directory and noticed that there are recipes, you might want to do that. A couple of things that I've been making, particularly during this time, that are phenomenal are Murray's macaroni and cheese and Murray's chili. They're both delicious. They both freeze well. They both go along, a long way to feeding a lot of people. and everybody loves it. So, you know, make sure you check this out if you haven't been aware. And I want to thank my husband, Chad, for being my wingman, my sound man, my taster. And I want to thank Murray for putting this all together to entertain you. You know, Murray is the kind of person that has a lot of ideas. We all have ideas, but the difference between us and Murray is that he has the ideas and then he does them. So just coming up with this whole format and actually doing the work on it is very Murray. And I thank him, and I think we all thank him for doing something kind of different and fun to keep us entertained during this peculiar time. All right, are there any other questions?
We're going to go back to Murray in a minute, but there is also a trivia night on Sunday. I'm going to let Mitch tell us about that.
Hi guys. So on Sunday evening at 7, we're going to be having an interactive trivia night through Zoom. Even if you're technically incompetent, we'll get you through it. Please make sure that you have the regular device you use to go into a Zoom conference, and also a second device. It can be an iPad, a smartphone, even another computer. You'll need that to play along. But we'll have a lot of fun, and looking forward to seeing all of you come and join us.
Okay, we're going to go to Murray in just a moment.
Bon appetit. That's all for today on the French Chef. This is Julia Child.
It's still me. Okay.
Keep talking.
Yeah. What is that?
Whoops.
I have no idea.
I don't know what that is either. Hang on.
That's all right.
Oh, Murray, your video's off for some reason.
Start my video.
There you go.
Okay. Is that all right? You got me?
Yes. All right.
Okay, Tova. Oh my gosh. I'm coming over to eat. Just put it on your porch. I'll eat outside in this weather. I don't care.
Okay.
No problem. That's beautiful. Well, you know, I've always said every time that we work in the kitchen and I cook with Tova, I learn something. Well, tonight I learned a lot of some things. It was amazing. And I think all of you appreciate how much time and effort it takes to put this all together and how many times we talked about it. But, you know, it was great. And next week, we're going to be doing these easy bagels. They're phenomenal. And this cake is delicious. It's Mary's recipe. And the bagels I got from my daughter, Pam. And it's going to be great. And I would get the ingredients if you can, because I want you to cook along with me and do them. The bagels you can get done within the time of the class, and you'll have your own bagels. You don't have to go to Bialy's anymore. So I want to thank everybody for being here. Thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing you. Yeah, be safe. Right, be safe. And we look forward to seeing you next week and throughout the week, and Sunday night for the trivia contest. And it was great. So sayonara, and that's it.
Hey, go have your cocktail. I'm going to.